Welcome. I would like to welcome you to episode 449 of the Unpopular Podcast. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Jalen Hunter. Here at the Unpopular Podcast, now we ask you to agree with me. I'm asking you to hear me out. You know, at the Unpopular Podcast, I like to start with love. I like to start with positivity, especially if most of what I say, or most of what I'm going to say about a certain topic, could be perceived as negative. And that is where I'm going to start this episode with today. I'm going to start with positivity. Let's first congratulate CeeDee Lamb for agreeing to a 4-year, $136 million deal. He becomes the second highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history, just behind Justin Jefferson, who got paid a couple months ago. Shouts out to CeeDee Lamb. There's no question that CeeDee Lamb is at least top 10. I would probably go closer to top 5 wide receiver in the league. He is extremely important to not just the success or potential success that the Dallas Cowboys could see, but he is extremely vital to the success of, let's say, Dak Prescott, or just the entire offense of the Dallas Cowboys. I always say, and I didn't obviously start this saying, but let's just say, someone always said, I don't know who originated it, so I'm giving somebody credit. You're only as good as what you can negotiate. And the thing that you realize about negotiations, and when you have two sides trying to negotiate and come to one agreement, is one side's always going to look worse than the other. That public appearance can obviously seesaw from time to time in negotiations, but it never looks good when a player that still has money, still has time left on his existing contract, it never really looks good that they in turn want to get a new contract. But in certain situations like this one, like the CeeDee Lamb, you have well exceeded the terms of your current contract. And when you see a bunch of players, when you see a bunch of people that are close to you in talent, but maybe not that close to you in importance to the team, when you see those players get paid, it's like, all right, I've sat here long enough. I've watched how the market continues to rise. I've watched how the market for my services continue to go up while I'm still here. Let's now go to the negotiation table and try to get me closer to the market that I feel I deserve and that I've shown when we talk about the importance to this team. And there were times when obviously people were like, yo, CeeDee, just play. So, again, man, shouts out to CeeDee Lamb for getting the deal that he feels he deserves. 4 years, $136 million. When you talk about importance to the team, I understand completely how CeeDee Lamb would think that he deserves this type of money. And, again, you're only worth what you can negotiate, and he was able to negotiate $136 million. So shouts out to him. Well deserved. I'm never going to poo-poo on somebody's money. No matter how I feel about the team, no matter how I feel about the player, I think everyone should get what they feel they deserve. So shouts out to CeeDee Lamb for that. I just said I like to start my episodes with positivity, and that is probably the only level of positivity at least for this topic, I have for you. So let's go. Let's expand this conversation and go a little broader. What is a salad? A salad is a combination of things that you put together, whether we talk about a green salad, whether we talk about a fruit salad, whether we talk about a pasta salad. A salad is when you combine a bunch of ingredients to make one thing. It's, obviously these ingredients can change, but it is a bunch of ingredients that come together to make one beautiful, tasty thing. Now, we just said that you can exchange different parts, exchange different foods to come together. But at the end of the day, when they come together, it is still a salad. Like, you can have a salad with a chicken Caesar salad. You can also have a Caesar salad with no chicken. You can have a fruit salad. And the different types of fruit that you put in the salad. What I'm saying is, I'm not going to go on a long tangent about salads. What I'm saying is, you combine a bunch of ingredients together to make one dish. When I look at the Dallas Cowboys, they are a dysfunctional salad. They are a salad that when you bring a bunch of dysfunctionality, when you bring a bunch of irrational patience, when you bring a bunch of broke, empty promises, when you bring a bunch of terrible negotiation tactics, when you bring a bunch of words louder than actions, you get the salad that is the Dallas Cowboys. Why did I say this? You see, this deal that CeeDee Lamb signed is such a small microcosm of a larger issue with the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I'm not saying that is an issue that CeeDee Lamb got paid. I think CeeDee Lamb should have been got paid. And that right there is the issue. I talked about almost every single time we've talked about this situation on this podcast, we've talked about how Jerry Jones has put himself and the Dallas Cowboys in a corner. He's essentially backed himself into a corner that eventually you're going to have to get out of, but it's going to cost you much more if you continue to wait than if you get it done immediately. Now, I don't know CeeDee Lamb. I don't have no sources. But what I do think is, you probably could have signed CeeDee Lamb, let's say 4 years, $29 million, 4 years, $30 million. I feel when you continue to wait and you continue to let animosity build, you continue to let the season get closer and closer and closer, the price is going to go up because you understand. CeeDee Lamb and his camp understands how important he is to the success of the Dallas Cowboys. My thing is, you would think that a person with the business acumen of Jerry Jones would learn from his mistakes. Because you see, this, what Jerry Jones likes to do, because he's done this before, is if he has a contract negotiation or a player that is refusing to play until they get a contract extension, he usually waits to damn near the final hour. The season starts September 5th. And when I said, for some reason, you would think that a person of the caliber, the businessman, the caliber of Jerry Jones would learn from his mistakes. He's done this before with a player that is currently on the team in Ezekiel Elliott. He waited till the last minute to get Ezekiel Elliott paid him more than what we thought he deserved, or we obviously as fans and stuff, but paid him well above the market that his production warrants. And after that, Ezekiel Elliott plummeted in production. But you still paid him what you paid him. Now, I'm not saying that CeeDee Lamb is going to plummet in production. I'm not saying that CeeDee Lamb is about to just fall off a cliff. What I am saying is your patience, you waiting too long, cost you a bunch of money with a player that is still on the roster. Now, obviously, he left and came back, but you would think that he learned from that. He obviously didn't, because I don't know, but I'm suggesting, I think that if you would not have waited, if you would not have let this linger as long as it lingered, you probably could have got CeeDee Lamb for less money. Maybe around 130, 129, 128, in that realm. And trust me, you're probably saying $6 million is not a lot of money. Obviously, in regular people terms, that's a crazy amount of money. But in business terms, $6 million is everything, especially when you're dealing with when you're in a sport that has a salary cap. It is everything. But I said they're a dysfunctional salad, right? I said the Dallas Cowboys is a dysfunctional salad. This is just one ingredient. Let's go with another ingredient. Insert Dak Prescott. Let's just insert Dak Prescott. The same exact thing that is going on with CeeDee Lamb is going on with Dak Prescott. The only difference is Dak Prescott's not holding out. It seems like every single day, every single opportunity to get something right, Dallas continues to do the wrong thing. Or the leverage that Dak Prescott has continues to grow. The new form of information that we got that continues to grow Dak Prescott's leverage is what we saw Trey Lance do in that final preseason game. It's easy to hold out paying somebody. It's easy to make somebody wait to get paid when you're confident about, well, if we lose him, we have a suitable option. It's easy to let someone like Brett Favre walk because you know that you have Aaron Rodgers waiting in the wings. It's easy to let someone like Drew Bledsoe go because you know you have a Tom Brady waiting in the wings. It's easy to let an Alex Smith go when you know you have a Patrick Mahomes waiting in the wings. It's easy to let Joe Flacco, who is a Super Bowl champion, go because you know you have Lamar Jackson waiting in the wings. You could paint the picture that Jerry Jones and this Dallas Cowboys team was okay and is okay with prolonging this Dak Prescott deal because you have Trey Lance, who you would think that they would be high on, waiting in the wings. Not saying that they're going to let Dak Prescott walk just because they have Trey Lance, but it's a lot easier to let him walk if Trey Lance is willing to accept money that Dak Prescott's not. If Trey Lance can keep the ship afloat or can take you to places like a Jordan Love takes the Green Bay Packers after Aaron Rodgers. But then we all saw that last Dallas Cowboys preseason game when Trey Lance throws 5 interceptions and 2 fumbles. So if I'm Dak Prescott, it's like, oh, y'all don't even have my replacement. So you need me even more. I'm not saying that Dak Prescott's going to hold out. But the more and more this continues to wait, the more and more that Dak Prescott continues to have to wait for a new deal, his price should continue to go up. And it seems like the Dallas Cowboys are stuck at a number that is not suffice for Dak Prescott. But it shouldn't, because Dak Prescott continues to build his leverage. I said a salad is a lot of ingredients. And I also said that the Dallas Cowboys is a dysfunctional salad. So we have the CeeDee Lamb deal. Shouts out to CeeDee Lamb for getting his deal. We have the Dak Prescott situation. The Michael Parsons situation isn't that big of a deal yet because Michael Parsons isn't loud about it. But trust and believe that deal is coming soon, if it comes at all. So I'm not gonna add. I'm gonna add that, but that's like the croutons. It's not the main thing, right? Let's talk about the comments. When Jerry Jones, who is the owner, obviously, was asked, would he sell the team? And he goes on this profanity-laced rant, pretty much saying that I'm the best at this. No one's better than me. No one can do this better than me. I am the greatest, pretty much. And F whoever thinks I'm not. You know, that's essentially what he said. You know, my mother once said, now I don't know if she was the originator of this saying, but she once said, greatness is only measured by results. I can say I'm the greatest at something. I can say I'm the greatest podcaster. I can say I'm the greatest basketball player. I can say I'm the greatest at something. But if I have no results, if I have no stats, if I have no proof to back up that claim, that's exactly what it is, just a claim. So I think to myself, well, what evidence does Jerry Jones have? Yes, I know that obviously he saw championships or championships with the Dallas Cowboys. But what has he done in the last, let's say, 20 years? Where there have been owners and GMs that have shown how good they are at their job. Yo, the running joke is that the Dallas Cowboys have not been to the divisional round in years. or the divisional round in years, the conference championship in decades. The one thing I will give Jerry Jones, and the one thing I'll give this Dallas Cowboys, and we'll move on after this, is that they're going to be good. They have a good team. They're going to be good. They're going to probably be exceptional in the regular season. They may even break that trend that the NFC East team has not repeat, or a NFC East team is not repeat as champions. They may break that trend and do it. I don't think they will, but they may do it. But the thing about a salad, the thing about a dysfunctional salad is it's going to rear its ugly head one way or another, one moment or another. Everyone knew CeeDee Lamb deserved the money that he was asking for. Do I think that he should have got paid more than Justin Jefferson? No. I said that on this podcast. And lo and behold, I'm not the only one who thought that. But like I said on this podcast, Jerry Jones' patience continues to cost the Dallas Cowboys. Sometimes in the immediate, but a lot of times in the future. And as we sit here today, one domino has fallen. That is CeeDee Lamb getting paid. Now we just have to see if Dak Prescott will get paid and Michael Parsons. And on top of that, will they be on the Cowboys? And on top of that, if they're on the Cowboys and you're paying three people as much money as they're asking for, how much success can you really have building a roster? I don't know, but we'll see. But congratulations to CeeDee Lamb for getting his deal. So, today, this episode concludes my divisional breakdown. I completely broke down the NFC. I broke down the AFC North, AFC East. I broke down the AFC South. And today, I'm going to break down what I think is the best division in football and what I think is a division that has a lot to talk about. And that is the AFC North and AFC West. And where I'm going to start is obviously the defending champions, the two-time defending champions back-to-back in the Kansas City Chiefs. Last year showed us a couple things. Last year, to me, really cemented how good Patrick Mahomes and this Kansas City Chiefs, well, let's just say Patrick Mahomes is. Now, no, there was never a question if Patrick Mahomes is good. Hell, I came on here and said that Patrick Mahomes is as close to the GOAT as we've ever seen, especially this early in his career. But as we've seen in the history of the sport, you need damn near everything to go right for you to win a Super Bowl. Health has to be on your side. Skill has to be on your side. 50-50 chances usually have to be on your side. Damn near everything has to go right for you to be considered a Super Bowl champion. Multiply that by 2 if you want to find yourself as a back-to-back champion. And the reason why I said that last year was a big year for the Kansas City Chiefs, especially Patrick Mahomes, is not everything, most of the things that you need to be a good team, just a good team, not a great, not a champion, a good team, the Kansas City Chiefs struggled with. They struggled with consistency at multiple positions. Chris Jones was holding out last year for the beginning of the season. This team saw dysfunction. This team had the most drops in, I think, NFL history for a season as a team. You had coaching situations, not with Andy Reid, but with the staff. There was, and of course, injury. The things that you need to be a good team, the Kansas City Chiefs struggled with. Yet they still won the Super Bowl. I'm going to talk about, obviously, when I get to the AFC North, part, I'm going to talk about the Baltimore Ravens. One thing that I said over and over and over and over again last season, was you need to take advantage of opportunities that is granted to you, because not only are those opportunities not always granted, but you want to put yourself in the best position possible to ultimately reach the goals that you're trying to reach. There are still issues that arise for this Kansas City Chiefs team. For instance, I'm almost sure Rashee Rice will serve a suspension sometime for his off-the-field issues. I don't know how long, but I'm almost sure that there will be a suspension handed down. And I think the Kansas City Chiefs understand that too, because they just brought back Juju Smith-Schuster. They also released or waived Kadarius Toney, which was a huge issue for the team, especially towards the end of the season. But if there was ever a year to get this Kansas City Chiefs team, it was last year. Because this year, they look much improved. Whether we talk about Xavier Worthy at the wide receiver position, he's hurt, but they have Hollywood Brown now. Joe Tooney is a great guard, and he got paid again. Creed Humphreys, even though he's getting older, he still is playing like the talent that he is, and that is Travis Kelce. Isaiah Pacheco, you get another year. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, you get another year. And you don't hear much rumbling on the defensive side. Yes, you lose L'Jarius Sneed, and I think that is a huge loss. But you still have Justin Reed. You still have Trent McDuffie. You still have Drew Trackwell. Nick Bolton. And Chris Jones, who is, at this point, undoubtedly the best defensive tackle in football. You also have George Kalafdis. I'm not predicting I'm going probably next episode or the episode closer to the season. I'm going to do my predictions. I'm going to predict who I think is going to win all the awards. I'm going to predict who I think the Super Bowl is going to be. I'm going to do all that. So this is not me predicting anything. This is just me explaining how I see this Kansas City Chiefs team and how I see this team. The time to get them was last year. And nobody was able to do it. They looked re-energized. They looked reloaded. And I don't know how. I don't really see outside of maybe the wide receiver core, because they are still. I mean, you're hoping that your best wide receiver. You hope Rashee Rice, who emerged as your better wide receiver last year, you hope he doesn't get suspended for a long period of time, which it looks like he will. And you're hoping that Xavier Worthy, who was a rookie, blossoms into something great. But you still have Justin Ross, who's pretty cool. Sky Moore, you hope that he takes that leap. You still have McCole Harmon. It's hard for me to see a path that doesn't lead to success for this Kansas City Chiefs team, because everything that I could have said, every issue that I could have said they had last year, and that didn't even stop them from winning a Super Bowl. Which kind of goes back to my opening point when talking about this team. It takes a lot to win a Super Bowl. You need so much to go right to win a Super Bowl. But what the Kansas City Chiefs showed us last year is the formula that usually wins you a Super Bowl. Some of those ingredients you don't need, because you have the ultimate ingredient, the ultimate unifier, and that is Patrick Mahomes. Which is why the top 100 players thing that Tyreek Hill, shouts out to him, was voted as the number one player in the NFL. That's why I said it had to be a regular season thing, because there's no one that could have watched what we watched throughout the playoffs and ultimately in the Super Bowl and not said that Patrick Mahomes, Patrick Mahomes was the underdog. The Chiefs were the underdog in the Super Bowl. They were going up against a vaunted 49ers team. Now, you can say what you want about the 49ers. We already discussed them. But you're going up against Brandon Ayuk. You're going up against Brock Purdy. You're going up against Deebo Samuel. You're going up against George Kittle. You're going up against Christian McCaffrey. You're going up against Fred Warner. You're going up against Trey Greenlaw. You're going up against, or Dre Greenland, I'm sorry. You're going up against Nick Bosa. You're going up against Chase Young. You have a lead coming out of halftime. You have a double-digit lead. And as we see it here today, the Kansas City Chiefs are two-time back-to-back Super Bowl champs. Patrick Mahomes has 3 overall. Again, I'm not going to make any predictions right now, but what I will say, and we'll move on from the Kansas City Chiefs, because there's not much There's not much in-depth breakdown you can give with this team because it's simple. Last year was the year. And I'm not saying they're going to win. I'm not saying that they can't lose. But what I'm saying is it's going to be increasingly difficult this year to beat this team than it was last year. Because it looks like they've reloaded. It looks like all their key positions that they need are locked up or not locked up, are secure. And they're by far the best team in the AFC West. By far. They can have dysfunction all over the place. That quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, has showed us that his talent supersedes dysfunction. Which brings me to my next team. And that is the LA Chargers. This was a busy offseason for the Chargers. You bring in Jim Harbaugh from Michigan, who just won a national championship. You bring him in as your coach. You essentially gut the team. Austin Eckler's gone. Mike Williams gone. Keenan Allen gone. Gerald Everett gone. A bunch of defensive players gone. You essentially gut the team to hopefully start from the ground up, right? When I talked about this situation is a combination of two teams, how I see it. When I talked about the AFC East, I talked about Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, obviously. And I expressed that it feels like the Buffalo Bills is putting a lot on his plate and expecting him to overcome a lot of question marks, we'll say, will be nice. Question marks at key positions, whether we talk about offensive line, whether we talk about wide receiver or skilled position core. They expect Josh Allen and his talent, well, it looks like, I don't know, but it looks like they expect Josh Allen and his talent to supersede those question marks. In last episode, I said, I don't know if Josh Allen, not saying he's not great. We all know that he's great. We all agree he's probably a top 5, maybe even top 2 quarterback in the league. We can agree with that. I don't know about top, I'll probably say top 5, but we can agree that Josh Allen's up there when we talk about quarterbacks. But there's a certain point where it's just like, all right, I can't do this. This is too much on my plate. And it seems like they're hoping that Josh Allen's talent supersedes the lack of fixings on the plate. I also talked about Trevor Lawrence when we were talking about the AFC South. And I also said that Trevor Lawrence, at some point, Trevor Lawrence got paid mainly from potential. Got a new contract extension, rightfully deserved. Shouts out to him. But make no mistake that Trevor Lawrence's contract extension came off of potential and leverage. Because if you let Trevor Lawrence go, there's really nobody on the market that can give you what he gives you. You can debate whatever he gives you, but there's nobody on the market, on the free agency market. There's nobody that you can get right now if you just let Trevor Lawrence go. When I look at this Justin Herbert and Chargers situation, I can't help but look at and think Josh Allen and Trevor Lawrence. Now we know, I think it would be foolish at this point to question the success rate of Jim Harbaugh. Damn near everywhere Jim Harbaugh has gone, he's seen success. Whether we talk about Stanford, whether we talk about the 49ers, whether we talk about Michigan, he's seen success. It's no question that he can be considered one of the best coaches out there. I don't think anyone should question that. Now, obviously, I know it. I hear it now. Jesus Christ, I hear it now. There's somebody that's about to be in my mentions. What about the sign stealing, bruh? Stop. It should be no question that Jim Harbaugh is a great coach. And he has a track record in both the NCAA and the NFL to suggest that whatever the hell he's doing with this Chargers team is going to amount to success. Because it is looking nasty right now for this Chargers team. Bro, their best skill position player right now is Quentin Johnston, who has a history of dropping balls. Pause. I mean, if you list, bro, the tight end position, you have Hayden Hurst and Will Dissly. You have Joshua Palmer, Ladd McConkey, Jesus. DJ Chalk, he's all right. And you have a pair of injury-prone running backs from the Baltimore Ravens and J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. Obviously, Gus Edwards has a healthier history than J.K. Dobbins, but still. And honestly, the offensive line, the only person you have is Rashad Slater and Joe Alt. They have Alex Leatherwood? Oh, no. This team, bro, you have some names, obviously, on the defensive side of the ball. You still have Khalil Mack, but he's getting up there in age, and he struggled with injury. Joey Bosa, he's always struggled with injury. Asante Samuel Jr., he's one of the better cornerbacks in the league. Young. Derwin James Jr., he's one of the better safeties, if not the best safety in football. He's not the best, but he's one of the better ones. Nothing about this team spells success. Which goes back to my point is saying I think they're hoping that Justin Herbert and his talent, because let's not get it twisted, bro. You can have your critiques about Justin Herbert, a lot of them fair, a lot of them maybe unfair, I don't know, but you could have your critiques about Justin Herbert. I don't think one thing that you can't say he's not talented. He's a talented individual. And I think, and what it looks like, especially when you see the people that they let go compared to the people that they have, it seems like that they're hoping that Justin Herbert's talent can put a big enough Band-Aid over this construction squad of a team. Because this team ain't good. And the reason why I think about Trevor Lawrence is because I'm looking at you, Justin Herbert, Oregon product. And at some point, just like I said with just like I said with Trevor Lawrence, at some point, That potential, you have to be able to cash in that potential. Yes, Justin Herbert is an incredible talent at the quarterback position, but talent does not mean anything if there is no results. There's a reason why there is a huge debate as to if Cam Newton is ever going to be a Hall of Famer or not. I am on the side of yes, but there's a huge debate because Cam Newton is unquestioned that Cam Newton was one of the most talented quarterbacks we've ever seen. When you compare size to speed to physical attributes, Cam Newton is damn near second to none. Yet with all that talent, you really have no. Yes, his name's in the record books for some things. Yes, he was able to take a team to the Super Bowl. They didn't win, but he was able to take a team to the Super Bowl, the Carolina Panthers. But the rate of success was so inconsistent that it really has people questioning, and he may not make the Hall of Fame because he was not consistent. There was not enough success to go with the talent that was Cam Newton. Justin Herbert, bro, at some point, I understand that injuries play a part too. And he is one of the tougher quarterbacks when we talk about playing through injury. But at some point, you got paid a handsome amount. I'm not here questioning if you should have got paid or not. What I'm here saying is you got paid means that with payment comes expectations. Justin Herbert, you have not reached those expectations. And I'm not saying you have to win a Super Bowl. I'm not saying that this team is even good enough to win a Super Bowl. But what I am saying is how many times can this team not make the playoffs, or not make it out the wild card, or you look and you're amongst some of the league leaders in interceptions. I don't think there's a question that Justin Herbert is a talented individual. When we talk about sheer talent, Justin Herbert is probably one of the better quarterbacks in football. But again, if you don't have any talent, if you don't have any results from this talent, what's the point of the talent? We can't just keep everyone in the league is talented, bro. Obviously, some more than others, but if you don't produce results, then that talent means nothing. So when I look at this Chargers team, I don't see much success here. The only way I can see success is if Justin Herbert banks in that potential bank, he cashes that check in, and we're able to see, hopefully Jim Harbaugh can unlock it, but we're able to see the best Justin Herbert. Again, I'm not saying, especially in your own division, you're not going to be the best team. You're not the best quarterback. At some point, you have to start cashing in those potential checks, because you're getting paid like a top tier quarterback, and they're obviously viewing you like a top tier quarterback when they expect you to win with this roster. And mind you, this is a worse roster than last year's. And last year, they didn't even make the playoffs. So, we will have to see with that one. Let's talk about the Vegas Raiders. And, the Raiders are one of those teams. Who is another one of those teams? The Vikings. The Vikings are one of those teams when I talked about the NFC North. The Vikings are one of those teams, or have been one of those teams. The Raiders are one of those teams. The Raiders are a middle-of-the-pack team. And it doesn't help that they're in a division. I'm not going to say it's one of the tougher divisions. The only reason why the AFC West is one of the tougher divisions is because it has the champion in it. It has, in order to win, you're going to have to dethrone the Kansas City Chiefs. If you took the Kansas City Chiefs out and maybe put the Vikings in this division and took out the Kansas City Chiefs, I don't think it would be one of the better divisions. So when I say that this is one of the better divisions, is solely because the Chiefs is carrying this division. Yes, there's the Justin Herbert storyline and the Chargers and Jim Harbaugh, but it's really the Chiefs. Now there's a long history of Raiders success, but that is long gone. There's a history of Broncos success, with Shannon Sharpe in them, but that's long gone. So this division isn't the greatest. It's just it has arguably the greatest player and one of the great teams in it. But when I look at this Raiders team, it is a middle of the pack team. I think the biggest storyline in this one is Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew being named the starting quarterback for this team. That, in my opinion, should tell you everything you need to know about this team. We've seen Gardner Minshew as a starting quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. You see, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that Gardner Minshew sucks. I'm not saying he's not talented. What I'm saying is, same thing as Kirk Cousins to a certain extent. We've seen the ceiling that is Gardner Minshew. In fact, we're going to talk about the Denver Broncos in a second, but compare Gardner Minshew to a Justin Herbert, to a Patrick Mahomes. Who you think is rounding third in that one? I talked about this when I talked about the Buffalo Bills. This is not the conference. I said division when I was talking about the Buffalo Bills. This is not the conference. The AFC is not the conference to not come correct on. The AFC is so good, has so much talent, especially at the quarterback position. One loss can take you from first to fourth in your division. A team that is well over 500 in the AFC probably will not make the playoff. A 9 to 10 win team potentially will not make the playoffs in the AFC. So with all that information you got, you look at this Raiders team and you think to yourself, do I think that this is a 10-win team? No. Do I think that this is a 9-win team? No. Do I think that this is going to be a good team? No. I don't think they'll be bad. I think Gardner Minshew, his ceiling is not bad quarterback. I think his ceiling is a really good quarterback. I just don't think that a really good quarterback is not good enough in the AFC. Yes, you have Davante Adams. Yes, you have arguably one of the greatest college tight ends we've ever seen in Brock Bowers. Yes, Jacoby Myers is an exceptional wide receiver. Yes, Zamir White has incredible upside. Yes, Max Crosby is one of the best defensive ends in football. Yes, Christian Wilkins is one of the better defensive tackles, even though you paid him a fortune. I don't know if he's as good as the price tag that's attached to him, but he's good. That might be it, bro. You know, I would love to see Antonio Pierce succeed. Obviously, coming from where he came from, the road that it took to get to the LA or Vegas Raiders head coaching position as a permanent, not an intern. I would love to see success from this Raiders team, but boy, I don't see it. In fact, I see Davante Adams on another team more than I see success for this team. Because Davante Adams is still the reason why people question if he is still a top tier quarterback is because, or top tier wide receiver. I'm sorry, is because he plays for a team that cannot get the consistency at the quarterback position right at all. That's one thing as a wide receiver you need. It is imperative to have. There's a reason why Calvin Johnson, as good as Calvin Johnson was, there's a reason why he really didn't see any success and that's no offense to Matthew Stafford. It goes back to my point when I was talking about the Chiefs. You need everything right to be successful. Matthew Stafford and Calvin Johnson put up historic numbers. I will go as far as saying I think Calvin Johnson is a top 5 wide receiver of all time. He has the numbers to consider himself and to be considered in the top 5 wide receivers of all time. The issue is there was no success attached to that because Detroit just sucked. Davante Adams is still a top tier wide receiver, arguably top 5. It's just when you have Aiden O'Connell passing you the ball, when you have Gardner Minshew passing you the ball, when you had Jimmy G passing you the ball, Marcus Mariota for a certain amount of time passing you the ball, that's going to affect. Oh, and on top of that, you're losing a lot. That's going to affect a lot. It kind of, don't get me wrong, man. I want Antonio Pierce to succeed wholeheartedly because I know how difficult it is for African-American coaches in any sport to succeed, especially on bad teams, because usually you have one shot and the gun that they give you has defects. But the gun that they give you that has defects, they expect you to hit a bullseye on your first 1 to 3 attempts, i.e. 1 to 3 years. When you look at this team ain't good. This team has some good. All the names that I said, Davante, Brock Bowers, who's a rookie, Jacoby Myers, Zamir White, Max Crosby. Those are really Christian Wilkins. Maybe those are really the only names that you have. Everyone else is either question marks or not good. And I don't think in the division that has now Jim Harbaugh and that has the reigning back-to-back champs, I don't see much success from this team. And on top of that, I'd be shocked if we look up by the end of the season, Devontae Adams is still on this team, and this team is not in super playoff contention. Yeah, yeah. Man, I'm looking at this roster, bro, and I don't see. I know it was a big thing that Gardner Minshew was named the starter, but it goes back to that might be bigger news, and that might move the needle a little bit more if this was in the NFC. But we've seen Gardner Minshew as the quarterback of the Colts. Do you think that Gardner Minshew is good enough to, No, I don't, at least. This team is not going to be good. And what's worse, kind of like the Vikings have been for the longest, this team is not going to be bad, but they're not going to be good, meaning they're going to be middle of the pack. Meaning it's going to be very difficult unless you trade someone off, hint, hint, Devontae Adams, to grow this team. Just giving it to you straight. Speaking of give it to you straight, let's talk about the last team in this division, and that is the Denver Broncos. You know the phrase I'm starting to hate? The phrase I'm starting to hate is he wants to build the team his way. Another phrase I'm starting to hate is he wants his type of people, his type of players. I hate that saying because if we really sit back and think and really sit back and digest that mindset hasn't been all that successful. If you look, the times that it was successful, sometimes that just came on to the head was Bill Belichick and how he built the Patriots. Well, yeah, but most of those times they were playing in a weak division in the AFC East, and he had a historic defense, and he had he had the greatest quarterback of all time in Tom Brady. When you have that, yeah, it's a little easier to say, yeah, I want to build from the ground up. Another team that comes to mind is Jim Harbaugh and the Michigan Wolverines. That was obviously in college, but the recent history of Michigan was god awful until Jim Harbaugh got there, and ultimately it resulted in a national championship. I also think about someone like Jimmy Johnson. As much as I hate the Cowboys, Jimmy Johnson comes in, gets Herschel Walker up out of there for Emmitt Smith, And that was controversial at the time. And obviously you saw, got Troy Aikman, Michael Irving, and you see what that produced. That's starting from pretty much the ground up. And talking about this Denver Broncos team, you hear a lot that Sean Payton, obviously the head coach, is known and wants to start from the ground up to build his team. And he did that with the New Orleans Saints. And that obviously resulted in a Super Bowl. I think that's so hilarious because, don't get me wrong. He was instrumental of building that team. But let's not forget, you had Drew Brees, who is arguably one of the greatest quarterbacks we've ever seen. I think past success, allows people to chill out when we assess blame to things. I'm not saying that it was his fault. I'm not saying that the lack of success that the Denver Broncos saw with Sean Payton and Russell Wilson was all Sean Payton's fault. But what I also am not saying is that it wasn't all Russell Wilson's fault either. I think the best coach, the way that you can determine if someone is a good coach or not is, are you able to get the best out of your players? That's it. I think most coaches know X and O plays. Most coaches know when your player is good, when they're not. Most coaches know, the strengths and weaknesses of your player. But are you able to extract greatness out of your player? And Sean Payton did not do a good job at that, in my opinion, with Russell Wilson. Now, yes, I know Sean Payton is a Super Bowl champion and this, that, and the third, but that's all he has is that one Super Bowl, by the way. Let me bring it back to current times. Russell Wilson's out of there. He's at Pittsburgh. You name Bo Nix your starting quarterback out of Oregon, another Oregon product, well, and Auburn, but another Oregon product. It looks like you about to get Tim Patrick out of there. Cortland Sutton, I don't know what's going to happen with that. You have Josh Reynolds. There looks like Shamaje Perine is about to be out of there. You have Javonte Williams, I'm sorry. And your defense has a bunch of good names, like Patrick Surtain II. But Jonathan Cooper is pretty good. But I don't think this team is going to be good at all. And at some point, we're going to have to start looking at the mastermind of it all, at Sean Payton. Because let's not be confused here. This roster is what it is because Sean Payton has the autonomy to do what he wants to do with this roster. We've seen this. It's been said. And when your quarterback room is Bo Nix, Zach Wilson, and Jarrett Stidham, for side note, did y'all see the video when I don't remember who posted it, when they were showing the reactions to Zach Wilson and Jarrett Stidham, and obviously Zach Wilson was excited for Bo Nix when he was announced the starting quarterback, and Jarrett Stidham said, He was disappointed. He didn't like how things shook out, and he knows without a shadow of a doubt that he is a starting quarterback in the NFL. My guy, Jarrett, do I think that you're an exceptional person? Probably. I mean, you have to be in the NFL. But starting quarterback, my guy, you're not even better than Jacoby Jones. I'm not Jacoby Jones. You're not even better than Joe Flacco right now. Right now. Yeah, man, hold on to that dream. But back to what I was saying, man. I know Bo Nix shined in the preseason, which is why he was named starting quarterback, and I think that he has a possibility to make some noise in this league. And I think the amount of college football he played, because he played a lot of it, definitely helped with his maturation and helped with him understanding, systems and stuff. But again, college is not the NFL. That's something I'm sure, which is what he said. The speed of the NFL is different. Well, the speed of the NFL preseason compared to the speed of the NFL regular season is much different as well. Let's just put that out there. So, but yeah, I don't see much success. And at some point, how many times can you get to build from the ground up and not see success? And how many times can that happen where we have to look at the coach and be like, all right, well, maybe. And you know how people kind of laugh and kind of get tired of the Boston Celtics, that 2009 championship? Is like, yo, I've never seen a team milk a championship more than that 2009 Celtic team. That's kind of the sentiment around them. I've never seen a coach get so much praise for one Super Bowl than Sean Payton. Because outside of the Super Bowl, what else has Sean Payton done? I'll do you one even better. Outside of the Super Bowl and outside of Drew Brees, what has Sean Payton done to warrant the love, the adoration that he gets? I don't know. But hey, that's just me. I guess I'm hating. But that's the AFC West, man. The way that I have the AFC West like the Chiefs number one by a country mile, because he has he's the better quarterback out of the remaining three. I have the Chargers at number two, but that's only because of Justin Herbert. I honestly, it's really back and forth. Yeah, I'm going to put the Raiders because I trust, until I'm shown otherwise, I trust Gardner Minshew more than I trust Bo Nix. And the Raiders have the better player out of both teams. I believe that is Devontae Adams. And then I have the Denver Broncos last again. Yeah, it's to me it's one team that is exceptional, and then it's a bunch of question marks. That is the AFC West. So yeah. Now I'm getting to the final division that I have not talked about yet, and in my opinion, the best division in football by a country mile, and that is the AFC North. I think it was last year where I said that the AFC North, I was a little overzealous. I said last year that the AFC North was going to have three teams to get into the playoffs. That's how good they were that's how good I thought they were as a division. And don't get me wrong, they were exceptional last year. It's just they didn't shake out the way that I thought it would. So the team that I'm going to start off with in the AFC North is the team that was the best team last year in the NFL until the AFC Championship, and a team that, let's talk about it. It is the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens is fighting something that is extremely hard to overcome. The Baltimore Ravens are fighting complacency. And they're trying to do something that hasn't really been done before, and that is duplicate in the same breath, succeed more this year than they did last year. Let's not forget, this Baltimore Ravens team was the number one team in football, I believe. Or maybe it was the 49ers and they were the number 2 team. They have the MVP in Lamar Jackson. They were the best running game by far. Historically, they were one of the best defenses in NFL history. And they came a game short from the Super Bowl. And a lot of people, including myself, said that there were more self-inflicted wounds as to why they didn't make the Super Bowl, more than the team that they beat them, which was the Chiefs. I feel the Baltimore Ravens beat themselves more than the Kansas City Chiefs beat them. I'm not taking anything away from the Kansas City Chiefs, but it was head-scratching some of the decisions that the Baltimore Ravens made in the AFC Championship. And one thing that we know about sports is things change rapidly. While the expectations may not change or may marginally change, teams, rosters change rapidly, whether we talk about contract extensions, trades, waived, like things change. And it's extremely difficult, especially in the NFL, to try to duplicate on success when at the same breath, the team that you just had success with probably will not be the same the next year. That's why I stood on the table. I stood on my soapbox and screamed to the rafters that this last year was the year. Because when you put historic to things, that usually means it doesn't happen again. Let me give you an example. The reason why I said that it was so detrimental that the Philadelphia Eagles did not beat the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl, 2 years ago? Because the Philadelphia Eagles had a historic defense. That was the year their defense was historically great. Which is crazy how you go from that to like historically bad in 1 year. But that proves it right there. They were historically great defensively 2 years ago. The next year, they got their heads blown off by the Bucs in the playoffs, the first round. This Baltimore Ravens team, that's why I stood on the table and said, this is the year. The Kansas City Chiefs are weak. You're the better team. Your style of play is their kryptonite this year. If you would have just kept. So now you look up a bunch of players that were vital for them last year, like Jadeveon Clowney is gone, like Patrick Queen is gone, like Odell Beckham Jr. is gone, like Gus Edwards is gone, like damn near your whole starting lineup or your starting offensive line is pretty much gone. Now, yes, you still have Zay Flowers. You still have Rashad Bateman and Nelson Aguilar. You still have Ronnie Staley. You still have Mark Andrews. You still have Lamar Jackson. You still have Justice Hill. You still have Justin Mbike, and that was a huge extension. You still have a Roquan Smith, who is pretty much probably the best middle linebacker in football. You still have Kyle Hamilton, who's one of the best safeties in football. You still have Marlon Humphreys, who's one of the better cornerbacks, but he has dealt with injury. So there are still key pieces to this team that can equal and lead to success. But it's very difficult to get as close to the mountaintop as they did, to one, not succeed, and to two, try to duplicate that and repeat that with a different roster. There's a reason why I left out Derrick Henry when I just had that list of players. Derrick Henry, I think, is going to be monumental for this team. In fact, let me back up. I think Derrick Henry has to be monumental for this team. Derrick Henry is a weapon that Lamar Jackson has never had. And I think it would make an already insane running game that much more potent, because you have one of the better running backs. You arguably have one of the best running backs in football now on your team. The issue is he's running behind, outside of Ronnie Staley, he's running behind, and Tyler Limberbun, whatever, behind him. Or behind them, you're running behind an unproven offensive line. There has been a lot of criticism and a lot of talk surrounding Lamar Jackson. His lack of playoff success is usually at the forefront of Lamar Jackson and the conversation that always surrounds him. In fact, a lot of people call Lamar Jackson the NFL version of James Harden. He has exceptional regular seasons. Again, he's a 2-time MVP. Yet he's only been to one AFC championship, and almost every game that he's lost in the playoffs, he didn't have that good of a game. Now, we can argue last year that it really wasn't on him, but he was. You have Zay Flowers dropping or fumbling the ball at the yard line or goal line. For some reason, I don't know why they just stopped running the ball, which was their calling card. I know that the Kansas City Chiefs is a great running defense, but you're the number one running team. Mark Andrews obviously missed damn near the whole year with a leg injury. He comes back, and he really wasn't the same, There's a lot of things, a lot of factors that went into the Baltimore Ravens essentially not beating the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship. But the person that is always going to get the most blame is the quarterback. And there, time and time again, whether we talk about the Titans back or a couple years ago, whether we talk about the Chiefs last year, time and time again, Lamar Jackson falls short in the playoffs, and that's obviously a topic of conversation. And this is an important year for not just him, but for this Baltimore Ravens team. I keep saying it, man. The AFC is not the conference to play with. The AFC North is not the division to play with. That is the division where you lose one game and you're out the playoffs. I'm not saying that you should sweep the division, but we've seen how one game drastically changes the complexion. One injury drastically changes the complexion of not just this division, but this entire conference. I think that this team is going to be good. The holdovers, the layovers that they have are still really good. Zay Flowers is still good. Mark Andrews is still one of the better tight ends in the league. Lamar Jackson is still Lamar Jackson. Roquan Smith still one of the best defensive players in football. Kyle Hamilton has emerged one of the better safeties. They're still good at Justin Mbike, is one of the better defensive tackles in football. I think that they're still good enough to be good, to be great. But I don't know if this team is good enough to get over the hump, because they weren't good enough last year. And last year's team is better, in my humble opinion, than this year's team. Kyle Van Noy is still there, but he's getting older. Brandon Stevens is still there. He's getting older. Yeah, I don't know if this team is good enough to get over that hump. Even with Derrick Henry. I think Derrick Henry unlocks a lot for this offense. But they weren't good enough last year with a better team, better roster. I don't know how they do it now, which means that the conversation surrounding Lamar Jackson will probably continue for yet another year, and how I foresee a great regular season. But when you look at the movement, when you look at the additions that the AFC has seen, whether we talk about the Texans, whether we talk about the Jets, whether we talk about the Chiefs, I don't know if this team stacks up to those teams. But we'll see. Speaking of we'll see, man. A thing that I say a lot, and obviously I'm not the originator of this quote, but you don't want to have a loud offseason going into the regular season. And it has been nothing but loud for this Cincinnati Bengals team. And you know what I'm starting to I'm starting to see? I'm starting to wonder when people are going to respect recency more than the past in certain situations. This is one of them. I continue to hear that Joe Burrow is one of the better quarterbacks in football, and rightfully so. He is. Talent-wise, he's one of the best. A lot of the reasons why a lot of people have Joe Burrow as the number 2 quarterback in football is because he's the only current quarterback to beat Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. There's not a quarterback that is playing in the NFL right now that has beat Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs outside of Joe Burrow. Now, obviously, that holds some weight. But why does that Joe Burrow, mind you, that loss in the Super Bowl to Matt Stafford and the Rams, why does beating Patrick Mahomes in the AFC Championship hold more weight to a lot of people than Joe Burrow's injury history, which is starting to grow larger and larger by the year? The poor, I'll just say it. I think that the Cincinnati Bengals have been proven these last few years to be a poorly run organization. Wait, are you talking about the same Cincinnati Bengals that went to the... Yes. Think about it like this. Since going to that Super Bowl, the Cincinnati Bengals have had contract issues with Jamar Chase, who reluctantly went back to practice a couple days ago. T. Higgins, who is essentially gone pretty much after this year. Joe Mixon's gone. Trey Hendrickson, Sam Hubbard. Look, I understand tradition, right? I understand the whole we don't pay people early. I understand that worked for a time. I understand that there was a time and period when it was uniformal, it was regular that you didn't pay players before their contract ended. That there was also a time when, as a player, you accepted whatever contract you had and you just rolled with it. You said, hey, this is the contract that I have. I have to play to the end of this. I shouldn't expect no more money. I shouldn't expect nothing because this is the contract that I have. I should just expect what's in this contract. And then once it's up, there was a time when that was acceptable. And while there are still fundamental principles to contracts that I think that you should, both the person signing the checks and the person that's receiving the checks, I think that there is fundamental principles that you should still go by when we talk about contracts. I also understand value. And that's where I think the Cincinnati Bengals ownership continues to miss the mark at. Yes, Jamar Chase has a contract. Yes, T. Higgins has a contract. But if their value to the team and their production shows that that contract does not mirror the value that they bring to the team and the production that they bring on a weekly basis, why do you refuse to negotiate and pay them? So now you get to a point where your best player, your most important player at the skill position, i.e. Jamar Chase, is not happy with his contract, meaning you're probably not going to be the number one team that they're thinking about going back to during the negotiations because they remember this. Or your second option, and T. Higgins, he's gone, or you treat him like you drag that man through the mud so much. I'll be shocked if he comes back. Old practices work in old times. And on top of the whole contract negotiations and contract situations that they've struggled with, they've also struggled with securing and helping their best asset stay healthy, and that's Joe Burrow. They look at Joe Burrow the same way that the Buffalo Bills look at Josh Allen. The only difference is the Cincinnati Bengals have not helped Joe Burrow on the offensive line at all. This is probably the first year that they had Orlando Brown Jr., cool. Max Kepka, cool. Trent Brown, cool. This is the first or second year they've really invested in Joe Burrow in the offensive line. There's a lot of people that's picking the Cincinnati Bengals over someone like the Baltimore Ravens because of Joe Burrow, because of Jamar Chase, because of T. Higgins. I understand completely. But I'm respecting current more than history. And currently, there is a lot of noise surrounding this team that isn't necessarily good outside of Joe Burrow's back. But yeah, you had players to hold out. So how healthy are they going to be for the start of the season? And I'm looking at this team outside of a few names. This is a good team. But do I trust the Cincinnati Bengals to get the best out of their product? No. I think that they're going to be very good because it's hard. Hopefully, knock on wood, Joe Burrow stays healthy for the whole season and all their players stay healthy for the whole season. But trust and believe, if you don't have Joe Burrow, if you don't have Jamar Chase, if you don't have T. Higgins, if you don't have Trey Hendrickson, Sam Hubbard, you're done for. And current history has shown that they've had a tough time keeping their prized possession in Joe Burrow healthy. That's just what it is. I mean, he hurt himself in practice last year. I think that, to be honest with you, the only reason why I think that a lot of people choose or have the Cincinnati Bengals over the Baltimore Ravens is because of Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. They also had Joe Mixon, Tyler Boyd, but they're gone. So, yeah. I don't see much of... I can see an avenue where they're incredibly good this year, and I can also see an avenue where they're not. So, again, obviously they're back with the team, but I don't know for how long, meaning after this year. How do you have two of your most important skill position players have contract issues and neither one of them are resolved? And the season starts on September 5th. Oh, and you see Justin Jefferson get paid. You see CeeDee Lamb get paid. What you think you about to have to pay Jamar Chase? Yet if you would not have waited. But hey, what do I know? Speaking of what do I know? I know that this is. I know that I'm one of the few remaining Russell Wilson believers. I'm one of the few people that feel that Russell Wilson is still an exceptional quarterback. He just needs the right pieces around him. I have been like that since, obviously, Seattle, the end of Seattle days, Broncos, and how I think a lot of that was they didn't build the system around him. I was screaming that to the top of my lungs. As the days go by, that confidence that I had in Russell Wilson just continues to dwindle. Just day after day, report after report, game after game, video after video. I talked about Justin Fields, and we'll talk about him in a second. And while talking about Justin Fields, I said that this was an extremely important season for Justin Fields. I also feel that way for Russell Wilson. Now, I still feel that the importance kind of stems from two different viewpoints. But nevertheless, it is extremely important year for both Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. But let's stay on Russell Wilson, because I focused on Justin Fields heavy before. I said that I'm one of a few people that still go to bat, I guess you can say, for Russell Wilson. That number, the number of people in that group continue to dwindle. On top of that, it's a lot louder. It's a bigger group over here that believe that Russell Wilson is cooked. Russell Wilson is done. His career is especially as a starting quarterback, is essentially over. You can't overcome what we saw in Denver. There's a reason why he's on the contract that he's on in Pittsburgh. And that group is loud because there's more people, right? But that group is starting to be able to continue to build their proof. I don't know how it is to be an NFL player. I don't know how it is to be in an NFL locker room. I don't. But one thing that I do know is if my status somewhere is at jeopardy, and that status has a direct effect on my pay, has a direct effect on my future, I'm going to go as hard as I possibly can so that there leaves no doubt that I am essentially the player that I think I am. And when you look at this team and you see that you have Pat Freiermuth around you, when you have George Pickens around you, when you have Najee Harris around you, and the only reason why you beat out pretty much Justin Fields is because Justin Fields didn't show enough. Not because you just made the gap so wide. That's an issue. Let's not get it twisted. There's a lot on the line for Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson and this team need to succeed. Because I believe this is the absolute last chance that Russell Wilson has at being a starting quarterback. Mind you, nobody really wanted to take a flyer on Russell Wilson because of how bad it ended in Denver, even though he was on a, he played really well towards the end, but this team has the pieces galore on the defensive side of the ball. T.J. Watt, Cam Hayward, Patrick Queen, Joey Porter Jr., Minka Fitzpatrick. This team is stacked. You still have Jaylen Warren, stacked. Roman Wilson. And you have a coach that, while he is very rigid when it comes to, his trust and dependability on the defense, you have a coach that is going to get historically gotten the best out of the players that he has. So I don't know if it's too cool for school type shit. I don't know what it is. But I hope that Russell Wilson understands that this is the very last. If this doesn't go right, this is the absolute last time he is ever going to be seen as a starting quarterback. And there's a large group of people that think he's not even a starting quarterback right now. Then you get to Justin Fields. I've said my piece. I said how this is important. Obviously, right now, there's a lot of people in my comments that are just saying there's nothing wrong with being a journeyman. There's nothing wrong with being a Jameis Winston. There's nothing wrong with being a Teddy Bridgewater, a Tyrod Taylor. There's nothing wrong with that. There's still success, and I absolutely agree. There's nothing wrong with being a glorified backup quarterback. Nothing wrong with it. You're still in the NFL. You still make a lot of money. You're still respected. Nothing wrong with it. My thing is, remember how we were looking? Justin Fields was supposed to be, he was looked at as being a franchise quarterback. That is not a backup quarterback. He was looked at to be the quote unquote savior in Chicago. They traded up to get him. That's not, you don't view that as a backup quarterback. Chicago was so ready to get off of him that they pretty much traded him for a bucket of Pringles, some sriracha sauce, and whatever hell Keith Lee was eating up in D.C. They traded him for nothing, essentially, to go to Pittsburgh. Because, mind you, it didn't seem like there was much of a market for Justin Fields either. So, I don't know what's got to happen, but right now, he's not the starting quarterback. Now, that obviously can change any time in the season. You can deal with injury. You can deal with just Russell Wilson not playing well. But still, there is a lot of question marks with this team, especially at the quarterback position. And I don't think, at least they both haven't shown, that they understand the severity of their situations. One is in danger of not just being a starting quarterback. There's a good chance that Russell Wilson, if this doesn't work, he may be out of the NFL. The other one, Justin Fields, while I don't think he'll be out the NFL, I don't think he'll ever be looked at as a starting quarterback again, just like Russell Wilson, which means that he would be a glorified backup. A person that was looked at as a franchise cornerstone and was drafted like that will now be looked at as just a okay backup. That is how dire the situation is in Pittsburgh right now. And the saving grace is there is talent littered throughout this team. So I would say it's hard to fail. But after what I saw in the preseason from both these players, it's a tough avenue to succeed. That could just be the preseason, obviously, but Russell Wilson didn't even look aggressive. And Justin Fields at times he looked great, other times he looked as lost as he used to look in Chicago. So, yeah, it's a big year. Big year. Speaking of big year, at some point, kind of like Justin Herbert, kind of like Trevor Lawrence, at some point, you have to bank and cash in that potential card. This Cleveland Browns and Deshaun Watson situation is a tad bit very different from Justin Herbert and Trevor Lawrence. I talked about Cam Newton earlier. Cam Newton is a perfect example of what happens when you break routine. What happens when either it's due to injury or trade or something? What happens when you're forced to break routine? I don't know if you guys remember, but before Cam Newton got COVID, when he was the quarterback for the Pittsburgh or New England Patriots, he was actually doing really well. The team was kind of he was learning the offense because we know how complex historically this offense is to understand and to grasp. He was understanding the offense, and they were rolling. I think they're on like a 2 or 3 game win streak. He just had like the best game of his career, the best game of his Patriot career against the Seahawks. He was rolling. And then he caught COVID and had to miss like a few games. And Cam Newton could never get back on track. It looked like COVID really hit his body harder than was projected. He just was never able to get back on track. The offense just he seemed slower than the offense. It just didn't seem good because he had to break his routine and break his learning process to recover from COVID on an offense that didn't slow down when he wasn't there. Why am I bringing up Cam Newton? It was a long road for Deshaun Watson to get to where he is now. Whether you want to talk about the injuries in Houston, whether you want to talk about the entire year holdout, whether you want to talk about all the field stuff that Deshaun Watson has been through, or that he's put himself through, it has been a mountain to get to where he is. He had to climb a mountain to get here. Now, yes, it did help that he had the most guaranteed contract in NFL history. But it took a lot to get here. The issue is, here is not where the Cleveland Browns want to be. There was a time when Deshaun Watson was undoubtedly a top 5 quarterback in the league. There was a time where it was viewed that Deshaun Watson wasn't too far off of Patrick Mahomes. The thing is, that is a long time ago, and a lot has happened since then. Whether we talk about injuries, holdouts, off the field issues, Deshaun Watson had to get off of his routine, and he has not been the same since. And I say all that to say, this is a huge year for Deshaun Watson, because this is yet another year where the Browns have a really good team. You still have Amari Cooper. You still have Jarek Willis. You still have David Njoku. You don't have Nick Chubb for the first few games, but you still have Jerome Ford. You have Elijah Moore. You have Jared Judy. You have Myles Garrett, who won the Defensive Player of the Year last year. You have Za'Darius Smith. You have Devin Bush. You have Denzel Ward, even though he's kind of struggling with concussion, so I hope he's okay. You have Greg Newsome. This is yet another year where this team is good enough to compete for a Super Bowl, roster-wise. Meaning the only thing that could propel them or could hold them back is Deshaun Watson's play. In the last few years, yes, I know last year he was hurt halfway through the season. But the first year and majority of the first half of last season, he was god-awful. And at some point, and I think, to be completely honest, I think that the Browns are past this point. He has to look similar to the Deshaun Watson that feels that he earned that extension or that contract, because he has not looked like that at all. And especially when you're going up against a Lamar Jackson, when you're going up against a Joe Burrow, possibly when you're going up against a Russell Wilson. If you want to talk about the whole AFC, whether you're going up against a Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen. I'm looking at this man's face, bro. Texans, bro. What the world? How did that man? The man's whatever. Homie, golly, I'm going to hate myself for forgetting. It's pause. It's on the tip of my tongue. CJ Stroud. You see how good the quarterback play is in the NFC. And like I said before, in the AFC, I'm sorry. And like I said before, this ain't the you don't have the time or luxury to figure it out in season. Because while you're figuring it out, you have a star that you probably have to play again. In fact, let me see what their schedule looks like. All right. So, regular season. This is the quarterbacks that they're going to have to face. Dak Prescott, Trevor Lawrence. I'm just going to say the good quarterbacks. Dak Prescott, Trevor Lawrence, Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert. Oh, man. Damn. What's that man's name again, bro? Derek Carr, Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, Tua Tagovailoa. Yeah, nah. You don't have time. Now, yeah, you have some cupcake. You have Daniel Jones in there. You have Gardner Minshew. You have Bo Nix. But this is not the roster to chill on. So, at some point, you can't keep putting out dud after dud after dud after dud in the team, especially a team that saw success with Joe Flacco, that got all the way to the playoffs with Joe Flacco. You can't keep dishing out you can't keep putting out the same crap on paper, bro. So there's a lot to prove with this team, and I think again they have the roster to do it. They have a great roster. They have a good coach, it's Kevin Stefanski. There's a lot of positives coming out of the Cleveland Browns. Obviously, they need Nick Chubb to get healthy, but once he gets healthy, he's still amongst the better running backs in the league. There's also a huge question mark, and that is how good will Deshaun Watson be? Because if he's not good, it doesn't matter. Just like Joe Flacco, he was damn near up there. He played like half the season. He was up there in interceptions, but he was still good enough to get them to the playoffs. I know that put a lot of pressure on Deshaun because, like, wait, how can Joe Flacco get us to the playoffs and you're struggling here, bro? And Joe Flacco was just on his couch with his dog. If I were to rank the NFC, the AFC North, I would say Ravens number 1. Oof. You know what? I would say Ravens number 1. Because of the roster, I would say Browns number 2. But it really all depends on Deshaun Watson. I don't like the noise that's been around the Cincinnati Bengals, and I don't like Joe Burrow's recent injury history. So I'm going to say the Cincinnati Bengals at 3, and they have the roster to be better, obviously, but it really depends on how good Justin Fields or Russell Wilson plays. Right now it's Russell Wilson, so that is the AFC West and the AFC North. What I'm going to probably do is closest to, probably the next few episodes, I'm going to give my predictions of MVPs and Super Bowl predictions and everything. But I might even next episode give a ranking of all the divisions. But that has been today's episode of the Unpopular Podcast. I truly, truly appreciate you guys. If you want a Popular Podcast shirt, hoodie, sweater, long sleeve joggers, the link is in the description below. I have multiple different colors, multiple different designs. Get your Unpopular Podcast merch today. Also, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm trying to reach as many subscribers as possible. I appreciate all of you guys. If you like the content, if you get to this point, bro, we're 2 hours in pretty much. If you get to this point, tell a friend, tell a friend, to tell a friend. I don't know why you aren't subscribing if you got this far, but please subscribe. It truly, truly means a lot. Also, if you listen to the DSPs, I understand that there's some people that only watch me on YouTube. There's some people that only listen to me on DSPs. So for my DSP listeners, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcasts, please listen. It definitely, definitely means a lot. I appreciate you guys. Also, please follow the socials. Follow Instagram, follow TikTok. That's probably the quickest way to get to me. If you want to debate, if you want to tell me how much you love whatever I'm talking about, if you want to tell me how much you hate my opinions, just keep it respectful, and I don't mind. Just let me know. Follow the socials, and it means a lot. We're getting close to the season, and I'm excited. So next episode, I'm probably going to dedicate to college football, seeing as though week 0 just happened. I didn't want to boggle this episode with talking about that, but I'll definitely talk about that Saturday's pod. Again, I appreciate you guys. Until next time, much love.